What's going down, everybody? This is your boy Big Druski, and welcome to another edition of Spacebucket Growing with Druski. Today's episode is brought to you by Rainman Spacebucket Microgrows. Please check their store out on Etsy. We'll provide you with the link in the description of the episode. Today's episode is also brought to you by Barkbox.com. Get one free extra month of Barkbox at www.getbarkbox.com/whatar. That is www.getbarkbox.com/whatar. For all you dog lovers out there, if you don't know what Barkbox is, Barkbox for humans is a delivery service of 4 to 6 natural treats and super fun toys curated around a surprise theme each month. For your dog, Barkbox is like the joy of a million belly scratches. Check them out. Go to our website provided. That's www.getbarkbox.com/whatar and try them out. We're going to kick off the show, folks. What's going on, everybody? If you guys have been following along on Instagram, we've got the LED Lotus Eater built and complete. That one was a doozy. That one took me about 8 hours to do last night. Within that 8 hours, this is how the layout of that went. So your main bucket, what I did was I cleaned it out. I took the power drill that I have, took my little drill bit on the bottom, drilled like 6 to 8 holes on the bottom of that. On the inside of that same bucket, I also drilled out our fan placement. Now the fan is placed, I believe, a notch below the top of the bucket, right under that second notch that comes out. From there down, we used the same drill bit, drilled out the fan square and placed that in. Test fitted that, and then around that test fit, what we did, we actually also installed our 3-gallon smart pot inside the bucket. We found where that was going to lie, and then in those spaces as well, from a little bit under like an inch below where the smart pot lies up to the very top of the main bucket was all lined in foil tape around the fan as well. So all of that is nice and light leak blocked plush reflective material all in one. Then from there, what we did was on our next 4 spacers, we just cut all of those out pretty much from the top of the bucket. Took off maybe an inch to an inch and a half below. And just completely chopped the rest of that bucket off. From there, we lined all of those spacers. The second spacer in, I decided to make our LED spacer. So after I lined that in foil tape, I took the, 6 feet of 50/50, 5 red, 1 blue LED light strip that we had. That's the one that we got from eBay. Installed that. Used the 3M backing that it came with and lined the whole bucket down with that. The power cords are coming out of a hole that was drilled out of where the bucket handle would be in that area to minimize light leakage, and so we wouldn't have to really do any work with patching in that hole or covering it or anything like that. It's pretty much shrouded by where the handle would go. From there, wired that up, fitted the power, made sure everything worked. We're good from there. The other spacers were lined with foil tape, and then our light lid was installed, and that's our 135 watt Galaxy Hydro 12-inch diameter LED light supplied to us by our sponsor. And then from there, it was pretty much done. The thing that takes the longest out of doing this whole process is lining your bucket and your spacers with foil tape. After you've got everything pretty much measured out, cutting wise, that goes really fast. If you've got like a miniature circular saw, you have a drill bit. That's the saw with the shank to put on your drill. Cut those out. You can even use. I'd use a thicker drill bit. But if you've got a corded power drill like I do, you got a nice high speed on that thing, you can use that power drill, the drill bit as a saw itself, and cut right through the plastic of your 5-gallon buckets to make your spacers, and actually cut out your fan placement. That's pretty much what I did. I used the one tool and went from there. 2 different drill bits. I used the bigger one for the holes on the bottom, then I used the small one just to use as a saw pretty much on high, and I just went to town cutting out those spacers. I had to cut out a little notch on the first spacer, just a tad bit, so it'll lock into the fan. But other than that, everything's looking pretty good. The LED Lotus Eater is fully built. 3-gallon smart pot filled with soil, flushed and lined. All the lights are installed, fans are installed. I'm looking at it. I might install a smaller fan on one of the other spacers to improve the air coming in, so that way the bucket inside stays cool, because I do understand that these LED lights are going to get kind of hot. At the end of this build, fully completed, are Spacebucket, fan, spacers, and light lid. Without anything going, just for maximum height on the LED light sweet spot, is just as tall, or almost as tall as the CFL build, minus the screen of green spacer that was installed on that one. And I'll tell you about the Scrog build here in a minute, but more on the LED build. The one thing that I like about this build is that I actually had the time to plan this out very, very meticulously. And I did that on purpose with a little slow build on how all the parts got here, and then how I was actually going to take the time to build this thing, just because I knew it was going to take me about a day, but I wanted to make sure everything was lined correctly, done right the first time, so that way I wouldn't have to roll back in there and try to do something else. So right now there's no plant inside that bucket, which gives me the opportunity to add another fan to a spacer, and cut the notches out on that again, and reline that in foil tape, even though everything's pretty much all lined up. That's one of the major issues I'm going to have on that, is the one fan, but we can always make something else work by building another spacer with a fan and going from there. You can always make, improvements on your space buckets, and you can always make additional spacers with fans and everything like that, just to keep your air moving in your space bucket. Keep it cool, keep the air moving around the canopy so you don't get mold or anything like that. But this is going to be an interesting build with the light spacer that's LED, and then the Galaxy Hydro LED light. I plan on doing a lot of low stress training on my next grow that we're going to be starting here in the next few days. We're going to germ some seeds. Once again, we're getting unknowns unless somebody wants to throw me a feminized seed of some sort. I don't like. Actually, I can't say I don't like. I like cannabis. I like any strain. I like all kinds of flavors. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna take this opportunity with these 2 buckets here to try to grow something different. So, my partner Stacks is the seed master over there. So we're gonna germ something up, and then we're gonna go from there. So, speaking of that, we're going to be building another, I believe, CFL bucket. We're going to do this one a little bit cleaner as well. And that bucket is going to be for Stacks. And then we have another CFL bucket going for another home girl of ours. She'll be remain unnamed until she would like her name disclosed on her podcast. But she is really interested in learning the process of growing cannabis and then actually doing a process of growing cannabis inside of a stealth growing situation. She's really, really interested in, and she wants to get her hands dirty and know how that works. So we're really excited on that end. Comparing this build to the CFL build, there was a lot of things that I had different going for this one. On the CFL build, not knowing about foil tape and lining the inside of your buckets with foil tape when I first built it, I did everything with a reflective material that I had to either glue or tape down inside the bucket and on the spacers. And when I saw my sponsors, Spacebuckets, via their website, I saw the foil tape lining, and it actually made more sense than Mylar or reflective material or anything of that nature when it comes to doing a space bucket. So I went on eBay and I got 55 yards of the stuff. Before I did that, though, just to test out the theory, I went over to our local general store, got a roll of foil duct tape, and proceeded to line the spacers that I did have with the foil duct tape. I noticed that worked exactly the same as using a reflective material, and it eliminated the use of any duct tape or any coloring on the outside of your bucket. So that way, on this next build that I did, the Lotus Eater or the LED build, we kept her clean, really, really, really clean, actually, and we didn't have to do anything to the outside of the buckets but wipe them down and keep them clean. And then we lined everything with foil tape. And after doing the power test and everything like that, you'll see that there's a slight pink glow, but it's not overwhelming. It doesn't leak out of the bucket in places except for the fan area, where the light's gonna come out because it's a big old fat gaping hole because there's a fan there. What we're gonna do on that end is I plan on building another just cardboard little light shroud to come around the fan, cover that up, and it'll cover, light going in and light flowing out. So that way it's a little bit more stealth, especially with the LED lights in there. That's really, really noticeable. It's a lot different from the CFL light. So it's just something that, in the experience of building the other space bucket, the CFL bucket that I have, the LED one, since it's more contained with everything inside, the lights inside the bucket, it's got a fan built in, and light does not leak out of that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to line the lid in foil tape just to maximize lumen tightness. I didn't get a chance to do that on the CFL build, and that was because of how the lights are actually placed and how the lid is. That lid is not your standard paint bucket lid. Something you can just kind of tape over. There's a lot of holes and gappage and things like that, so I just line that whole thing, the outside of that, with black duct tape. And I made my light shroud out of cardboard and placed that on with all the tape and everything like that. So you minimize light leakage or the light coming in from the top of the bucket, because there's a light shroud catching that. There's a fan on the top spacer of the CFL build, and with that fan being there, there's a lot more light leaking inside the bucket, so we eliminated that by installing a light shroud. And then on the very bottom of the CFL build, we did not use a light shroud because of the room that it's in. No light really comes in that room unless the lights from the CFLs are actually on. So, sit pretty much in the dark room until, the lights get turned on. So there's some slight differences with the light situation and things like this. I understand that the LEDs get kind of hot. So we're going to be watching for that. We're going to be watching to see what happens once we actually start our grow inside that bucket. Like I said, that'll be in a couple of days. And we're just going to see the difference, really, in between CFL builds and LED builds. Since I have both in-house, I can see what's going on. Right now, with the CFL build, we've got a 15-inch tall, unknown strain cannabis plant, switched into flower. So for the past week now, about 5 days, we've had a nice stretch going on. The watering situation includes full on, and then when the lights get turned off at 10 o'clock in the morning, what we're going to do is spray nectar for the gods, chaos bloom, foliar spray on the leaves, top and bottom of the leaves, front and back side, whatever you call them. And we sprayed all that out, you know what I'm saying, covered the leaves nice and good, and then we let her sleep, you know what I'm saying, let her soak in all those nutrients via her leaves. We got the full on in the soil via the water mix, and that's what's going on there. We are in early flower stage. Once the pH meter hopefully gets here tomorrow, another eBay fail or success, whatever you want to call it. I call it a fail because them things it takes so long for stuff to get here on eBay if you get it at a cheap price, you know what I'm saying, dealing with Hong Kong, Malaysia, China, things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? It's just a waiting game. It's one of those things I wasn't really thinking about until I got the nutrient kit, and then I got asked if I had a pH meter, and so I had to order one, like, off the rip, and it took a few days. So while that was going on, I just used full on and the foliar spray. And I've seen a nice stretch pop off. Like I said, she was a foot tall when I switched her to flower. Now she's 15 inches. So, an inch per day since the flower flip, which is amazingly strange. Like, as soon as the light time switches, it's like, all right, time to go into overtime. And that plant just grows. Like I said, that's in the CFL build. I noticed today I had to install the screen of green spacer, which was a pain in the ass to build. I'll tell y'all about that in a hot second. But I noticed that when I popped her on today, and just to see what everything that was going on, top leaves are almost touching the lights again. So, you know, we have to install another spacer, give her some more room to grow. And, you know, we're seeing the flower stretch happen right now. So hopefully in the next few days, you start getting some node action. We start getting things to actually pop off and see what is happening. See if we got a male or a female in the house. And I'll tell you what's going to go from there. If we have a male, I'll try to keep her. Might switch her to a different kind of grow setup, or him to a different kind of grow setup, and that's just because you know, it's a male and we want a female, like we've been praying for this whole podcast. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to get that female growth going. It's the only time you want a girl is when you're growing cannabis plants, unless you're a breeder, or, you know what I'm saying, you're a genetics farmer. You know what I'm saying? You like to make some cross genomes and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Then that's when you keep your males. But hopefully I don't have to get rid of this plant and all the time and effort that's gone into this grow. But if we do, you know what I'm saying, there's no harm, no foul. It's just another experience in growing cannabis. Let's see. We're going to get into that screen of green spacer build, and I'll tell you guys about how that went here in just a second. So y'all know screens of green are a pain in the ass. And that's right, I said it. Have you ever built a screen of green for a Spacebucket? A Spacebucket, mind you. Like, that thing is fucking possible. So, building this thing, I had to, take another bucket, cut off the whole top piece, and proceed the holes around each side to where they would line up in a way that I could make a square pattern out of these holes. In doing that, I found that the installation and the maintenance when it comes to the tuck factor of, owning a screen for a screen of green is the most probably meticulous part of building the screen for your space bucket. And it's the tucking alone, really. Like, once you realize, okay, I've built the screen. I've got everything lined up. Plant's looking good. Everything's going right. And then you install it. And once you install it, you see everything that's about to happen. Like, you've got your gloves on. You're sitting there poking at this damn thing to get it to tuck right. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes on with that screen of green build that was just too much. Like, that small of a spacer plus that limited space with the screen on there, trying to pull everything through while not pinching and cutting leaves. Just all of that, man. It was kind of a pain in the ass. And then once you realize that once every couple of days you got to get in there with your nutrient water mix and feed this bad boy, feeding tube, or an easier way to feed through the screen, and that's going to be a hose or a feeding tube connected to a bottle, with the valve switch, so that way you can actually hold that thing upside down and feed her through and then shut her off once it gets a little bit too much. Let the water absorb in through your soil and then apply the rest, so that way you get your nice little runoff. Everything from there goes on, and you'll be good to go. It was just the hard part about tucking and then having to pull everything through. Once you've tucked and pulled and have everything through, then every couple of days having to really carefully pull the spacer off. If you don't have a feeding tube, pull the spacer off so you can move your plant around, see everything that's happening after she's sprouted through the tuck there, or the beginning stages, because you still have branches that are fighting for light. So on that end, you you really got to watch out for those. You got slight movement to the left, to the right, of where the initial branch was growing towards the light, but now it's more focused, and you're trying to get everything going to where that you can pop in those the branches, pull the leaves through, make sure you get everything going on that route. But yeah, folks, once you realize how meticulous the process is of actually installing and building and maintaining a screen of green for a space bucket, you won't do a wild grow. I'll tell you that now. You will implement some kind of low stress training to make sure you're maximizing the light that's going to be used in your space bucket, the light getting to your cannabis plant. You're going to maximize that with low stress training and topping and things of that nature. But you're also going to notice that if you do build a screen of green, you're going to want to install some type of feeding tube. Make sure your light, your lumen tightness is all good. Your lights don't leak out, or you got light coming in through that through the hole where the tube is. But that would be my suggestion if you're installing a feeding tube on the side of your space bucket for easier feeding. It's either that or take off the light lid and feed through a feeding tube that way, all the way to the bottom of your space bucket. Another way of doing it. So there's multiple ways of feeding your cannabis plant, or your tomatoes, or your red peppers, or whatever else you plan on growing inside of a space bucket. But there's multiple ways of feeding it after you've installed some type of screen in there. So it's just one of those things, convenience versus, getting in there and getting your hands dirty and actually playing with your plant and seeing what's going on, checking in on it on a daily basis. And, just seeing what's going on in general, because cannabis does grow, A, fast as shit, B, it grows tall fast as shit. Like I said, I didn't have the time that I thought I was going to have with the stretch before I had to install the spacer or screen to green in the CFL bucket. And that's after I noticed that, there was mad growth. I got leaves just rebushing everywhere. Today I noticed some of the lower leaves looking just, dried out, damn near dead. But it was like 2 of them compared to the 9 branches, 10 branches that are on this plant. It was a minor comparison. When you looked at the whole thing, there were like 2 that were like really on the dying side. And then a couple of more that were on the shrivel up. It's getting there. So I just went and trimmed those off. Kept everything else pretty much because, like I said, this is my first grow. So I'm really trying to see what happens to a cannabis plant, how it naturally grows itself. Male versus female, things of that nature, bushiness of the plant, to how it grows. And from what I'm reading, this looks like I'm going to have, a nice female on my hands, but it just, having a bag seed grow, you never know. So it's just something that we're still looking out for. But the stretch has been mad crazy. Pardon me, y'all. Boy had to get some of that mandarin orange sparkling water in his system. But, right now, we've got a nice stretch going. We've got 1 inch per day since the nutrient, water, and time change. CFL build. LED builds on track, built, installed. Everything's good to go. Except for my fan. It's a 12-volt fan. I'm having trouble looking for a 12-volt power source to power the fan. That's like one of the only things I'm having trouble finding right now. All the other plugs that I have are like 7 and 8 volt. You know what I'm saying? They're for smaller devices or something like that. So I gotta, search through the tools that I have. And with the resources I have in-house, I can probably get this done within the next couple of hours here if I just give it a good look. So we're going to get that fan powered up and everything like that. We're going to get the real test going. And we'll have our second grow coming in soon enough, you guys. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. The Lotus Eater is going to take over on that end. And, the Lotus Eater is going to be our full LED grow from seed once again. Pardon me, you guys. I love water. But, we're going to do another from seed grow. Or I'm thinking about it. I might do a LED clone grow just to see what I can get out of this plant here, and if I can like force, 2 harvests, even it'll be a nice little small dense joint, you know what I'm saying? Just to see what happens. I might do that just to get my hand on cloning too, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm new in that nature as well. So I want to get my cloning hand right. And I got a nice little potential popcorn bud site that I could clip off at the main stalk of the plant. And hopefully she roots and we get her to take. And then once she takes and grows some legs, then we'll go from there. But I've got a plan, because we do have the LED build like set. I really wouldn't have to do anything crazy. Like, I'd really have to just hope she takes. So on that note, I'm gonna go to growweedeasy.com. Even though they threw me out the Google forum that they had for spreading information about growing in a space bucket via podcast instead of posting and taking pictures. But I'm not going to hate on y'all for that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just going to point out that this is a new technology. This is a new way to spread information. And for banning somebody for spreading that information in your forum, just to me was a little harsh. But, we're on Reddit under a few sites. If you just look up Space Buckets, Druski 702 is my Reddit name, so you'll see me on there. I'll be posting images on image URL. We have the Elevated Lifestyle podcast Facebook page. We also have the Elevated Lifestyle merchandise and apparel Facebook page that we'll be posting on. We are listed in the Rainman Spacebucket Microgrow Facebook page as well. Holla at me for a link on that. I do got a couple of friends in there. The homie Big Stacks and the newest member to the Elevated Lifestyle Grow team. I'm leaving her name out of this, but she is a part of the team, even though we don't talk on a consistent basis. But I am excited to get a build going for her. So I'm going to see what I'm going to do. I don't know if we're going to invest the time and money and go LED for her to get max yield. Especially after seeing our sponsor CJ's build and his harvest. Like, when he showed me he can get 2 ounces with the LED build, it amazed and shocked the utter mess out of me. And that's my goal grow point. So, if I can get something or some training in on the plant that will help maximize yield, that will help out tremendously. So, there's a lot to work on this, but with that process of knowing now that we've got 2 more, actually we've got 3, because we got a friend of ours, 4, sorry about that, we have 4 interested people in the Las Vegas area who want to do a space bucket grow cabinet indoor stealth kind of thing, and to see that my input is wanted on that, it's a cool thing. Even though I don't have full experience in growing inside these things, I'm learning on a daily basis, and I do have the basics down. Room temperature, reflectiveness, light setup, light distance away from your plant, and getting that sweet spot of the build going. So there's a lot of things, especially Lotus eaters. They've seen the CFL build in its like first month before I topped the plant, And so they saw the potential of what can happen inside of a space bucket, and see that they're going to do their own internal grow is super, super awesome. And to me, it's super dope because they supplied the Lotus Eater builds supplies, the buckets. That was the main thing. Our sponsor, CJ, Rainman Spacebucket Microgrows, was super, super awesome enough to provide us with a Galaxy Hydro 135 watt, 12-inch diameter LED grow light, light leak fan shroud adapters, but my fans are too small for those to use, so I'm building my own fan shrouds once again. Another cool thing to do, just because it gives me experience, and it also gives me something to make a mold out of. So hopefully one day I can either soon hopefully get like a mini 3D printer and print out, fan shrouds of that nature, or just, cut out cardboard ones, and then have them all made with a white tape or the foil tape of some sort. Maybe I'm thinking about doing a white duct tape on those and not wasting the foil tape on light shroud builds, because they're real simple and small. But I gotta build a light shroud around that so I can get light leak to stop happening from that big old fan place that's on the LED build. That's just one of those things that we gotta kind of maximize the potential on that. But that's the only thing. So I can't wait till they get to see what grow happens in here. Like I said, I might do a clone. I want to do from seed. And then in the next few days here, we're going to be laying out plans to build Stacks his own grow room. That's an indoor setup there, because this blistering triple-digit heat in Vegas is knocking some plants out. And from what I've seen on Instagram, some plants are thriving in this 100-degree heat. I have no clue of how it's going on that end. You might want to shoot Stacks510 on Instagram a DM. Let them know the tricks of the trade for your outdoor grows. You know what I'm saying? If you guys are outdoor growing in triple-digit heat and still getting max yields in the summertime, especially, times like this, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead and let us know. Let us know what's going on. Let us know how that's going to happen. Let us know what's happening with your grow. You don't have to give details and names and this and that, but, all the experience that we have from other growers helps us grow in knowledge, and then helps us grow cannabis plants. You know what I'm saying? I like being a local, homegrown farmer that's not using any dumbass, crazy remedy, myths, whatever have you not. Like I said, Grow Weed Easy, Spacebuckets.com, and ILoveGrowingMarijuana.com are really my big sources of reads for when I do these grows and builds, especially looking at other people's space buckets and things like that. And it really gives me a chance to expand on what I'm going to do, and that's how, these builds keep getting done and improved. So on that note, you guys, just keep following me on Instagram. Follow the podcast at whatarewedoing_podcast. Follow our apparel and merch page. That's Elevated Lifestyle LV on Instagram. Follow my partner, the other half of the What Are We Doing podcast. That's my partner at Stacks510. You can catch him on Instagram. Follow our other sponsor, Lotus Eater Organics. You can follow them at Lotus Eater Organics on Instagram as well. And you can also find, our affiliates, folks that we like to make money with. You already heard one, and we're going to get you on the others here in just a quick second. All right.